guest is a Hoosier today, former MLB pitcher Clayton Richard out of Lafayette. Back to talk to him after these words. Our guest is former Major League pitcher Clayton Richard, former Indianapolis Indian. He's a Hoosier out of Lafayette, out of McCutcheon High School. And Clayton, great to see you again. How are things going?
Terrific. Thanks for having me on. There's been quite a lot of action the last couple of weeks, but we're excited about the opportunities ahead of us and ready to take on those tasks.
You're the new baseball coach at Lafayette Jeff High. Tell us your feelings on that.
I'm really excited about the opportunity. We have a really good group of young student athletes that are coming through. It's an opportunity for me to get into coaching at the school I went to McCutcheon, but I grew up on South 26th Street in Lafayette, 2 blocks from Loeb Stadium. So I was the ball boy / bat boy for Jeff back when Primavera was the head coach, and I grew up walking over there and watching those games and getting Arnie's afterwards and walking back home. So really thrilled about this opportunity coming forward.
Yes, that's absolutely terrific. And let's go back to your days at McCutcheon. Your senior year, you're Mr. Football, you're Mr. Baseball, and in addition to that, you're the class valedictorian. Take us back to that.
Glory days. It was a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed playing, participating in sports. And really I try to emphasize that as much as I can whenever I'm working with youth camps or talking to an individual aspiring student athlete, how important it is to play as much as you can for as long as you can. Eventually someone's going to take the ball out of your hand, whether you want to or not, but don't be the one that gives away the ball. Hold on to that ball as long as you can. And if it's a soccer ball, a football, a basketball, a golf ball, whatever it is, play it as long as you can, because at some point you won't be able to play it anymore. And you never want to look back and regret those moments.
You came out of McCutcheon and you wanted to be an NFL quarterback.
That's right. I think we probably had that discussion on the bus at some point.
Yeah, an Indianapolis Indians bus ride.
Yes, I went to Michigan. I agreed to go to Michigan because in my mind, my perspective, what I wanted to accomplish was I thought that was the best opportunity to win a national championship, win a Heisman, and prepare myself to be an NFL quarterback. Those were my aspirations and what I wanted to accomplish. Unfortunately, I did not get that opportunity to make those things happen at Michigan. But fortunately, we had discussed prior to my arrival upon campus, me participating in baseball if that opportunity came up. So after my second year at Michigan, I joined up with the baseball team and played for that season before I got drafted by the White Sox.
Yes, and you didn't get much playing time during your days in Michigan. And the quarterback position is very interesting because it's all about making decisions. And sometimes it's different, so different than baseball, which is a skilled sport. And sometimes a guy can be great, but he's just not getting an opportunity as a quarterback.
Right, and that's sports all around. Clearly, I'm biased from my perspective on what happened. But you're right. And I just had a quarterback camp here at Lafayette Jeff last week, and that was something we discussed, is there's only one quarterback on the field. And you have to do everything in your power to improve your skill set and get that opportunity to play, because it's not given away. And if you're not playing, you have to work even harder to get on the field. So that was definitely something I talked to our young quarterbacks, because it is. And if someone's doing well, you're not going to get a chance. You might be doing great in practice and doing what you can, but it's really an opportunity. You might not get an opportunity. Unlike baseball, where if you're on the roster and you're a pitcher, you're probably going to get out there and pitch at some point.
Right, and the same can be said of a position player in baseball. Final
right.
point on being a quarterback. This is before your time, but you know the name Joe Montana. At the beginning of his junior year at Notre Dame, he was the third string quarterback and was ready to quit the team. He wanted to play basketball for Digger Phelps. Digger talked him out of it and said, "You'll just sit on the bench." They're playing Purdue. He comes off the bench. He rallies them. "Oh, this guy's okay. Give him a chance next week." Well, he went the rest of the way and they won a national championship. So it was just a matter of getting an opportunity for some guys.
And in athletics, that's so much the case. I mean, the greatest quarterback, arguably the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, Tom Brady, had a very similar situation at Michigan. And same thing when after he got drafted at New England. If Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, who knows what happens. Before that, if Drew Henson doesn't get hurt at Michigan, you don't really know what's going to happen and where your opportunity is going to arise. And so that was a really cool opportunity for me to, one, experience some adversity, not being in a role being able to handle it, and two, having that experience of making the most of an opportunity when it comes. Because when you're not given an opportunity, you realize how few and how special those are.
And then you emerged pitching well at the University of Michigan to be drafted by the Chicago White Sox.
Right. And I got few opportunities there, but it was enough to be seen. And I think it was more so, I think there was questions of my desire to play baseball coming out of high school. And I think I answered those playing baseball at Michigan, to where it was something where I believe I was drafted on my merits from high school more so than that short season up at Michigan.
And you worked your way through the White Sox system. It's 2008, you're in AAA Charlotte. And the reason I know this story is because your manager, Mark Bombard, is a good friend of mine. He was the manager of the Indianapolis Indians in the 90s. Yeah. And you were supposed to pitch at Victory Field, supposed to go to the Olympics, and tell us what happened when Mark said to you.
Yeah, we were down in Louisville, and I was really excited because all the way through, since I left high school for Michigan, I had not pitched or played in the state of Indiana. So nowhere close to home. So this was going to be my first opportunity to come back to Indiana. I was going to play at Victory Field. So I was really excited. I even asked Bomby, I said, "Hey, any way," because I was coming after the All-Star break, "is there any way that I was slated not to pitch in Indianapolis. Could we, since it's coming off the break, is there any way that we could adjust my spot so I could pitch in Indianapolis?" And so they were really nice and considerate and made that change. And then we're in Louisville. I think it was on a getaway day. We're getting ready to come up to Indianapolis, and he called me in the office and he's like, "Oh man, I hate to do this to you." I was like, "I know you got the Olympics coming up," because it was getting close to that time as well. We were getting ready to leave the train and then go over to China. And he's like, I know you wanted to pitch in Indianapolis, but you're going to go up and pitch tomorrow in Chicago. And it took me a minute. I was like, "What? Chicago. Oh, all right. I can get behind that."
Yeah, that was really something. And he shared that, and we were so happy for you. And then in 2015, we'll get back to other moments in your career. In 2015, you actually became an Indianapolis Indian.
I did. That was a very unique experience and something I'm fortunate to have. It's once you're in the major leagues, you don't really desire to be in Indianapolis. It's nothing against Indianapolis, because if you're going to be in AAA, there's no better AAA spot, but you're still not in the big league. So I was very fortunate to have the opportunity the Pirates gave me. I was coming off a couple of injuries, and the Pirates were great to me, giving me the opportunity to come back. They rehabbed me in Bradenton, and then I made my way back to Indianapolis and got the opportunity to pitch there for part of the summer and spend some of it with you.
Yes, and you told me, you said, "I have an upward mobility clause in my contract." And I said, "Don't tell me about upward mobility. I've been in the same job for 40 years. So
we need to work on that. We need to get you one of those.
But it was absolutely terrific. You got the chance to go to the big leagues with the Cubs and continue your major league career. We'll get back to that in a moment. We'll have more with Clayton Richard after these words. Clayton, so you got to the big leagues with the White Sox. Tell us about that experience.
A dream come true. You work so long, and I say work, I always enjoyed the work, doing whatever I did to get prepared for the upcoming event or the upcoming season or whatever the sport may be. But you do so much and you sacrifice so many other opportunities away from the sport that when that lifelong vision comes to fruition, it's surreal. And I got up to Chicago. Fortunately, we're from Lafayette, Indiana, so it's about a 2-hour drive depending on where you're going. And my parents came up, and I have in my gym, I have a picture. My mom was sitting in the back seat. I was sitting up with my father, driving from McCormick Place over in Chicago to U.S. Cellular. And like it's a moment I remember so vividly. The drive seemed like it took so long. It's about a 10-12 minute drive, but it seemed like it was forever. And we pull up to the stadium. I have no clue where I'm going. And I'm like, well, I look at my dad. I was like, thanks for the ride. And fortunately, as I walked out, John Dinks was walking up and got to meet him because I had not been in big league camp. I had not really experienced like that big league roster. I did not know the guys. And fortunately enough, there's not really a better person than John Dinks to run into, a very friendly and someone that we created a really good relationship really quickly, but ran into him and he showed me the way in. And the next day I was starting it against the Texas Rangers, and it was so much fun. Friends and family come up, and it's something that you dream of for so long. Like I said, when it comes real, it's hard to grasp.
You pitch for the White Sox, then you get traded to the San Diego Padres in the Jake Peavy deal. Tell us the difference about pitching in those two ballparks, in that U.S. Cellular is very hitter friendly. San Diego's ballpark is a pitcher's park, and you're in the National League as well, where you don't have to face a DH.
Right. But it was definitely different. And the trade happened when I had finally felt like I was settling in Chicago, started to throw pretty well, and was excited about the opportunity there. And there were rumors like the month before that I was going to get traded, and that didn't happen. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be here forever. And then sure enough, out to San Diego. But it was so much fun in San Diego. A beautiful ballpark, a great place to pitch, especially in that time frame. It's changed a lot since then with they built some building that's weird. The ball just travels differently, and then clearly the balls were different for a couple of years there, so that changed as well. But for those years, it was a terrific place for me. Bud Black and Darren Balsley, the manager and pitcher coach, I could not have been more fortunate to have those guys be leaders for us.
Then you came to Indianapolis, you went to the Cubs. What about the experience of pitching at Wrigley Field and for the Cubs?
Another kind of dream come true type moment, because towards the end of my time in San Diego, I blew out my shoulder, and I had already had one shoulder surgery. And in 2013, I knew something was wrong. Like I could not lift my arm. I had to start, couldn't get through. I think I threw 2 pitches, and I think I barely got to the plate, and I couldn't lift my arm. So I was really worried. It took up a lot of my mind space about whether or not I was going to be able to just throw again. So I rehabbed from that, another shoulder surgery, and I got back, and I still wasn't throwing right. My arm was not accelerating. And so I had thoracic outlet, so another surgery. And I was at home for most of this part, and then kind of questioning whether or not I'd be able to throw again. And the Pirates gave me that opportunity. I was super excited. But then all of that going into the Cubs giving me an opportunity. 4th of July, we have an opportunity. I get to start against the Marlins. And so all of that's in me from not thinking I was going to pitch. And then, I get a pitch on July 4th. I get a pitch in Wrigley for the team that I grew up watching on TV. I grew up watching Ryan Sandberg play second base, and Mark Grace, and all these guys that I grew up watching, and the team that I grew up watching at the field, we grew up watching and cheering for it. And it was so cool. And having the perspective of being in the big leagues for about 5 years and knowing how fleeting that can be, and then getting a second opportunity from somewhere that you always dreamed of playing, it was so special. Through pretty well, we got the win and got taken out in the 6th or 7th by Joe Madden. And I just remember vividly walking off the field and seeing my wife, my parents, and you could just like, they're up in the stands, but for some reason in my memory, I feel like they were right there with me. And it was a really, really special experience.
And you were there part of 16 too. You weren't there at the end when they won the World Series, but you got that World Series ring, which had to be very nice.
Without a doubt. And I felt like I contributed in 15 to help through the playoffs, pitched quite a bit in the playoffs. Unfortunately, in 16, started off the season, had strep throat, did not throw well, did not throw much, and it just did not work out, unfortunately. Through a couple reasons, like I said, my performance was not up to par of what it needed to be a contributing member on that team. And then they made a couple deals. They brought in Chapman, and that was it. So I had to move on, unfortunately, but fortunately for them, they had a special thing in place, and they got the job done out there. And what a special story that was.
And then, as you said, you did pitch for a while after that season with those 2 seasons with the Cubs.
Right. So after that it was about a calendar year I spent with the Cubs, and then San Diego was going through that rebuild phase in San Diego. Andy Green was the manager. I had played for Andy Green in Mobile, Alabama, back in 2014, right after that thoracic outlet surgery, before I was with the Pirates. And so we had an experience playing him managing in Mobile in AA for the Diamondbacks. And I had a lot of connections in San Diego as well, and got an opportunity out there. Did well at the end of 2016, starting for San Diego, and signed I think it was a 1-year deal followed by a 2-year extension. And it was awesome getting back to where I spent most of my career. It was back to where my first son Cashin was born, and it was a great time.
That's terrific. Now, as we mentioned, you're going to coach the baseball team. I saw that note too a couple of months ago where you were the quarterbacks coach. When you get to baseball now, Lafayette Jeff, head baseball coach, do you have a desire to coach professionally in the professional ranks?
No, I'm ecstatic about the opportunity to help with Lafayette Jeff. It's an opportunity where I can help not only the high school program, but the youth program as well. And over the last, it's been a while that unfortunately there's a lot of young athletes and children in our area that are not getting the opportunity to play baseball. And so it's a huge challenge for me, and something I'm very passionate about is getting more kids on the baseball field, to be around mentors, to be around coaches that can give them something they're not getting at home. Because unfortunately, there's so many children in our area, in the city of Lafayette, that are missing some things that baseball can provide. And if we do our job right, we're going to bring that to more children and help develop them, and hopefully show them something that they might not experience otherwise.
Can you look back, you mentioned pitching for the Cubs, the White Sox, a moment or two, a highlight or two that really stand out from your major league career?
That moment I shared with in Wrigley was special. My debut in 2008 against the Rangers, that was special. Josh Hamilton had just come off the not the World Series, the home run derby, where he didn't win, but he hit. It was one of those cool moments in baseball where he was hitting the balls out of Yankee Stadium, and struck him out 3 times in my debut. Hit my first home run in Milwaukee. I hit a home run with my dad, my high school coach, and owners in the first row. So I get up to bat, and they're all sitting right in the first row, right next to the on deck circle, and them giving me a hard time about my hitting numbers. And in that first at bat, hitting a home run. So that was neat. I've had scored a game winning run in San Diego, where I pinch hit in extra innings, got a base hit, and then Will Venable hits a ball in the gap, and I score from first. And I don't think my heart rate came down until we landed in St. Louis. It was a getaway day in San Diego. And I don't think I had something more exciting. Like, that was just so exciting, because you usually don't get that as a pitcher. And I was sweating the whole flight. Like, I just never calmed down from that. But that was against the Angels. Then a couple times being in the postseason, because that's why we play, is to win. Getting the opportunity my first year in 2008 with the White Sox, and then we unfortunately got knocked out quick. And then 2015 with the Cubs, getting back into the playoffs with them, beating the Cardinals, who were favored, and then making it to the NLCS. And we kind of ran into the buzzsaw of the Mets starting rotation in that series. I mean, you really couldn't do anything in that series. They were just so dominant, and you have to tip your cap sometimes when you run into four guys that are just on their really talented guys on their A game. You have to tip your cap.
Well, Clayton, we thank you so much for spending time with us, and congratulate you for all you've achieved over the years. Thank you so much.
Good to catch up.
All right, great to see Clayton Richard. We'll be back after these words. Thanks to our guest, Clayton Richard. See you next week on Kelman's Corner.